The spirituality of many people, particularly in the West, is based on faith. At times we adopt the beliefs that we were taught as children by blindly accepting what we were told as fact. Others of us may have chosen to adopt a new faith as adults, but often our beliefs in that faith are also informed by what we were told by the so-called authorities and teachers of that religion. Most times, what we were told doesn't seem to make logical sense, but we're instructed that what really matters is what we believe, not what we understand. Such a practice, in my opinion, is dangerous and unhealthy. Faith in ideas is risky at best, because ideas can change. If tomorrow we wake up and believe something entirely different, then yesterday's faith will have been pointless. Spirituality was not intended to be about blind faith and superstitious beliefs. True spirituality must be experiential. Rav Yeshua, Jesus the Nazarene, taught, "The core of my being is the way, the truth, and the life." In other words, that part of us that's connected to the source of life, the ground of being, is the way and the truth. Therefore, our spirituality needs to draw on the interior life and find its substance in divine love. A recurrent theme in so many of my Dharma talks has been returning to divine love, finding the example of the Christ or the Buddha, the incarnate example of love, returning to a way of life that centers us on service to one another, forgiveness, social justice, healing, caring for the sick and dying, feeding the hungry, loving one another, and loving ourselves. It seems like a simplistic message, and it is. For many, though, it seems that the things that I've accomplished in my life have been significant and inspiring, but really when you look at it, all I've done was try to stay focused on living from a place of connection to and awareness of divine love. Sometimes I've been better at it than others. Sometimes there have been dark moments and uncertain emotions, grief, distractions, and everything else that each of us experiences in our lives. But instead of finding those things burdensome or embarrassing, instead of seeing my mistakes as failures, I embrace them as part of the experiential spirituality that brought me to where I am today. Now, I don't always stay grounded in that awareness in the very moment that it's happening. Like everyone else, I can become distracted. I can end up off track and allow myself to become overwhelmed. But as I take the time to sit in the sacred silence, to return to that contemplative space, then I begin once again to embrace those things that have happened, those impermanent phenomena, as part of the experiential spirituality that brings me to where I am right now in this moment, the only thing that I really have to work with. Perhaps one of my greatest frustrations has been to realize that not everyone is willing to open his or her heart to the simplicity of this message. There are those who want their superstitious, hierarchical, or oppressive dogmas, doctrines, and institutions, even if they find those beliefs superstitious, or they find those dogmas oppressive, or the authoritarian approach to the polity in that religion to be oppressive. There are those who want people to believe in a literal interpretation of their own religious narratives, and because those people have their own agendas and issues, they are unwilling and unready to embrace the truth of divine love. Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh writes, "You cannot talk about apple juice to someone who has not tasted it. No matter what you say, the other person will not have the true experience of apple juice. The only way is to drink it." In the Christian mythos, reflected, for example, in the Gospel attributed to Luke, Luke chapter 9, verses 51 through 62, we read about Jesus' encounter with the young man who wants to follow him, but says, "Not just yet. First I've got to go and bury my deceased father." He wants to put off the detachment and surrender necessary to follow the way until a more convenient time. Now, the metaphor of having to bury his father represents this idea of deferred enlistment. But in the story, Jesus and his disciples are on the road to Jerusalem right now. The only way to follow is to surrender oneself to the experience and get on the road with them. The story also details how James and John want Jesus to send fire and punishment upon the Samaritan villages, which in their perspective rejected him. But Jesus' focus is on the message and the mission, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of the divine." The journey that they're on, this journey to Jerusalem, isn't about going to a geographical place in Palestine. It's about moving forward in that toward that mindful state of existence where we fulfill our human and divine potentials. It's about a return to a place where we're truly one with God. It's not enough to talk about it. We have to experience it. We have to understand that when we use terms like God or the divine or the sacred or the ground of being, we're not talking about a person. That this concept of a mythological person that's separate from ourselves is not useful. We have to experience it. We don't need to put it off until a more convenient time, because there's never going to be a more convenient time than right now to experience the ground of our being, to experience that sacred presence of love that we're all a part of. If I waited to respond to the call to serve the people around me and all sentient beings until it was more convenient, I would have never gotten started. Instead, I made my first vows when I was 7 years old. I then was ordained as a Buddhist monk at 16, and I was professed as a Franciscan at 18. It wasn't convenient to start in seminary when the Roman Catholic Church was steeped in intolerance and homophobia. It wasn't convenient to dedicate our ministries to the compassionate care of the sick and dying when this new epidemic of AIDS was claiming so many lives, causing panic and infecting 3 of us, including myself. It wasn't convenient to start a small group of my Franciscan brothers and to guide them to separate themselves from the oppression of the institutional church. It wasn't convenient to have to endure 6 years of dealing with the egos, the agendas, and machinations of those people who thought they could turn this new experience of canonical independence into a free-for-all or money-making scheme. Nor was it convenient to take on that pursuit knowing that we were going to be attacked by those who were threatened by the fact that we were actually putting into action the message and not just dressing up and playing church. And now it's not convenient to focus so much time and effort into building this grassroots movement, nor was it convenient to say that I've dissociated myself from all institutional religion and from all religious titles and labels when I'm facing extreme health challenges. My friends, it's never convenient, but it's always time. Namaste.